Hi, everybody. Lisa here from Fireside Strategic. Welcome to our video cast, Humanity Builds Better Businesses, where we celebrate leaders that do transformational work within organizations, helping their clients grow and lead teams with humanity. Right now, I'm happy to chat with Amy Lafko, founder of Cairn Consulting Group. Amy's work optimizes organizational excellence through employee experience, leadership, and team development. Amy, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm very excited to be with you today. Thank you.
So I would love to start out just diving right in. Could you tell us a little bit about your definition of employee experience? It's such a popular buzzword, but what does it mean to you and how do you work on this?
It really is a buzzword. And I think that's what I find interesting. A lot of people, when I do, keynotes or conversations with people and I ask, are you working on employee experience? Oh, yes, I am. And then we actually talk about what they're doing. And there's a lot of confusion. As much as it's a buzzword, I think there's a lack of clarity about what it means, and even the idea of like, how do we optimize the employee experience? So first, I'll just tell you my take on the employee experience. It's definitely not that everybody comes in and is happy all day, every day. It's not possible for any of us, right? We're
Right,
human.
right.
So we can't make that goal be that, oh, everyone's just happy all the time. We want them to come to work, have a true sense of purpose, have a true understanding of how they add value to the practice and how they add value to the business goals overall. They need to understand how their role fits into supporting the mission, the vision, and how they can personally live the values of the company every day. And if you've got those core aspects, then what you want to do is really unleash them. If they're aligned with the mission, vision, values, if they understand what it takes to work in your business and help it grow, then it's about unleashing them and empowering them to do their best work. And that's really what engagement comes down to. It's this knowledge and this self-awareness that I can bring my best to the table and my best is rewarded and appreciated. And that's really what the employee experience is all about. And that's what engagement is all about.
Wow, I love how you make it so clear. So, what can leaders do to improve employee experience?
I think there's two main prongs to it. And what I've found with companies that I work with, they bring me in to work on one prong, and then we realize there's challenges in the other area, or vice versa, because I get brought into companies to do a lot of leadership development programs, which I love, and I absolutely adore it. I think in reality, if you want to have an engaged team, they have to be supported by a leader who is really there for them. I have a book coming out at the end of this year, and its title is People First. And that's the kind of leader that team members want to be experiencing, people first. And when we talk about people, it's the team members they support that really make the difference. So of course, you need to have leadership skills in order to support your team. You need to be skilled at how to coach others. You need to be able to understand and listen to your team members. You need to be able to ask powerful questions. Really skilled leaders have incredibly high levels of emotional intelligence. They understand what triggers themselves and how to self-manage that. They understand what can potentially trigger others, and they do their best to meet people where they are. So that's the one prong. It is all about that leadership skill set. The flip side is how you design your organization has an awful lot of impact. And I've had clients who've gone through a leadership program and then called me a month later and said, I need to find a new job because all of the people first stuff that I'm now trying to implement doesn't work in the design of my business that I'm working on. And we forget that so much of the structure of the work can really determine how much emphasis the business puts on putting people first. So for example, do you have a laundry list job description that's just 25 bullet points of everything this person might possibly do over the course of their career in that role? Or do you really help them understand what are the key things that they're accountable for? What's the greatest priority? How much time should they be spending in those priorities? And then what does success look like? So don't just tell me this is the top 25 things I might have to do. If I'm doing them well, what does success look like? So one of the first things I end up doing with a lot of clients is we go back and look at those job descriptions and we flip them. We flip the switch so that they're now key accountabilities with success factors. That's what I mean by organizational design that puts people first.
I think that's so beautiful. It seems like in the work you do, you really help people feel that ownership.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the neat things when you create key accountabilities, it's not just the leader or the owner sitting down and writing these out or taking the job description and converting it. You take your best and your brightest and say, you're doing what we want everybody in that role to do. Let's come together and create this together. And it's empowering for someone to say, I don't see that as the most important priority in my work, or I do see this as the most important priority, and here's why. And so the dialogue that can happen because of those discussions is incredibly powerful. I recently had one where we were doing it, and it was a key accountabilities for the director of marketing. And we did the draft and we sent it out to everybody, including everybody that was in the group. And one of the women that was in there, she crossed out the title and said Director of Community Relations. No wonder she was struggling in her role because she was currently in the Director of Marketing role. She didn't see her role as marketing. She saw it as community relations, which have very different key accountabilities and very different success factors. That led to the conversation that needed to be had for about 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're really building a lot of alignment to organizations. And in addition, just a lot more aliveness. I think a lot of the reasons that people struggle at work, why they're, people have some emotional deterrence to work, is because they come in there just to get things done. And I feel like the work that you do, it makes work make sense and it makes it exciting.
It does. And it does. If it makes sense to someone, it's much easier to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And I want people to understand their role, how it builds to the organization's purpose, and how the organization is supporting that individual's purpose, and how it all ties together. That's what creates this momentum for people, and that alignment, that energy and excitement around where we're going together.
That's spot on. Changing gears a little bit to the business side of things, it makes so much more sense. It makes so much financial sense for
Yes.
companies to do this. Because if the employees understand what they need to be doing, if there's alignment, if there's energy, if there's excitement, people will be a lot more productive, a lot more creative. And I think that will be reflected on the bottom line.
Very much so. And what's exciting about this coming year with 2021 is a lot of my clients are in growth mode because they really are people first oriented, and they did everything they needed to do to take care of their teams during the challenges of this past year. So they're looking ahead to growth, and that growth can happen because the team understands why we're growing, what we need to do in order to grow, and the fact that things are going to be different.
Right.
Instead of getting to that growth point and saying, oh my gosh, there's this flood of stuff coming at us, what do we do? They're prepared for it. We're getting them set up ahead of time so that the entire team knows where we're going, what challenges we're going to face, and we give people a roadmap so that instead of saying, what just happened, they're looking at it and going, oh, I know what's coming around the bend and I'm ready for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're really setting companies up to grow. Beautiful. I would love to take a step back and learn a little bit about your journey. What inspired you to do this work? How did you get here?
I am a physical therapist by background, and I was thrust into my first director of rehab role at all of 27, and I had no idea what I was doing. I thought being a director meant that you wore a fancy suit and nice shoes and you just walked around and made sure everybody I didn't know what that meant. And so I was so fortunate because I had the president of our system and my vice president, who I directly reported to. They taught me what it meant to be a great leader. And in the end, we focused on making sure the entire staff had everything they needed so that they could take care of the patients. It wasn't about the patient first, it was about people first. And I did that because I saw Ron and Carol role modeling it with me. And it's funny, as I was prepping for the book, I reached out to one of my old team members who now owns her own practice. And she picks up the phone and she goes, "Hey, my favorite boss ever." And
Oh,
that was so exciting because I was 27. What the heck did I know about being a boss, you know? And then I blew it. Later on in my career, I stepped away from leadership. And when I stepped back in, I blew it. You know, I did everything that was focused on the patient first. So that customer view. And I was less concerned about the team, and I blew it. And that made me do a lot of deep reflection. And I started down this leadership journey, and I had some phenomenal mentors and coaches. I went through some great leadership training programs, and I had the switch get flipped. I learned that my emotional intelligence was really low, and I better do something about it because it matters. And so I learned and developed all of those things. And thankfully, I got another shot at being a leader. And it became this experiment where I got to try all of the things that I had learned over the years. It was a very different outcome. And then I realized I want to help other people have their own aha moment. So no matter how good they are today, they can be that much better tomorrow. And that's when I added in the business design side, because it's the way you design your organization that supports the leader to support the team who can support the customer.
I love your story so much. And I love how self aware you are, that you've gone through these trials and tribulations, that you've had the success, that you've had the failure, but you use that as a learning opportunity. And that learning opportunity is really what triggered this incredible mission to your work.
Absolutely. And I'm willing to say that I messed up, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm just so incredibly fortunate that I had mentors and colleagues and friends who supported me and who encouraged my growth. One of my coaches said to me, "Win or learn, what's the lesson?" And I embrace that now. And I think that's one of the most important things as a leader, as a business owner, as a human. What's the lesson?
It's so easy for leaders, especially, C-suite leaders, to feel like they have to show up as something perfect, something shiny, something impenetrable. And I completely agree with you that it's essential for people to start making the growth journey by recognizing where can they improve, where can they learn. And I love that if you walk in with your own vulnerability and help the leader go through that same journey, what an impact that makes.
Absolutely. And it's this willingness to be curious,
Hmm.
and humble. Absolutely. And if you have a humble mind, that means you are curious. There's something better out there and you're willing to look for it. And so I think that's really important. And curiosity extends not only to yourself, but everyone on your team. One of the things that I find incredibly transformational is when we design the organization to include sit downs one-on-one with each team member and whoever their direct leader is. And that's transformational. And I think in small organizations, with less than 10 people, they go, "Oh no, I see them all the time. It's fine. I don't need a formal sit down." And then in big companies, they say, "Oh, a formal sit down is like a review and we don't want that." So there's always some reason not to sit down one-on-one with your team member, but at least quarterly sitting down and saying, "What's going well? What can I help you with? What do you need from me?" Even just those three questions change the whole dynamic. You show curiosity, you show interest, and you say, "What can I do better?" And now we're on a different playing field.
It's beautiful. You're right. It's so easy to skip that human moment.
Mhm.
You know what's so interesting? I'd love to hear your perspective on this past year during the pandemic. I feel like, in my experience, it's humanized the entire business world in a very strange way. We're literally looking into each other's homes. We're seeing each other at our most vulnerable moments. I'm very curious to hear, with your clients, have you noticed a change in how they have to show up?
It's interesting. What I've noticed more than with the current clients I had going into 2020. It's the clients I picked up and started working with towards the end of 2020. So the clients I was working with at the beginning of the year, when it came to layoffs and how to pivot our strategy and we have to make dramatic changes quickly, they were set up for success because they were already on the path of putting their people first. So their team really knew they have my best interest at heart. I'll never forget when I had a call with one of my clients and he said, I got to lay people off. Like there's a $200,000 implication if I don't lay people off this month. I don't know how to do that and let them know I still care about them. And I said, you just did. So he is a task-oriented finance business guy, but we've been working together long enough. He's like, Amy, this is a really important thing to have a conversation with folks about. And so he set it up really well. And what I noticed is my clients who were people first or working on their people first skills, they came out at the end of the year really strong, really strong. Their teams are committed with their hearts, their heads, and their hands. And so they're going into this new year saying, where do we grow? How do we grow? And then I picked up some other clients. And one that really sticks out is they had started talking to me in January and said, we're doing pretty good, but we were thinking we might put in a leadership development program. Okay, great. Everything happens in March. Yeah, we're going to postpone it. Then I get this urgent call towards the end of the year and it said, 65% of our team didn't come back to work.
Wow.
Is that normal? No, that's not normal. Well, it must be normal because, I mean, we have great employee experience. Of course they want to come back. And then she started to tell me about the time that, a team member walked into the office, looked around and went, I quit, never mind.
Whoa.
Yeah, yeah. But it was because they didn't have that people first, that employee experience and engagement before this happened. So they're struggling now. And so as I look into the coming years, what I tell people, if you want to future-proof your business against anything, it comes down to how you treat your team. And if you're people first, everything else will work out in the end.
That's brilliant. I love that. What a beautiful insight. Just to get a little more tactical, I'm curious, what kind of companies do you work with and what companies are you looking to work more with into the new year?
Oh, thank you. I work a lot with healthcare, private practices, because that's my background. But it translates beautifully to other industries. So service providers like law firms. I work with one of the big four accounting firms and I lead their Women in Leadership program, which has been an extraordinary opportunity. Interestingly, this year, the partner said to me, it's not fair to exclude men from that group because the women in your group are the ones that are partner ready. So we have to include men as well. And I said, great, let's do it. So looking for additional leadership development program opportunities. I love working with teams on their development and skill set. And then I'm looking to work with practices that have, or businesses with, 20 people or more that are looking to grow. I always joke that I like two kinds of companies. And they all have to have the same baseline. You got to know that you want to get better. You got to want to get better. And you're just looking for somebody to help you do it. And that's where I come in. And when I think about that, it's typically one of two types of clients. Things are toxic. We're losing people. We don't know what to do. We have lots of turnover and we know that's not a good thing. Okay. Or the person and the company that says, we want to grow and we want to do it right the first time. So how do we set ourselves up for success?
You're doing it right. You're doing it right. I love how the types of companies you're working with, they're ready for change, whether
Yes.
that's change off the bat or change because they've been doing something wrong, but you're coming in during a very dynamic time.
It is. It's really, and I'm coming up at the end of this month. I have a company that we're doing their first ever true strategic plan. And in the past, the owner has just put together what he thinks the goals should be for the year and then sends it out to everybody. And their group has gotten so much more dynamic, so much more skilled and knowledgeable in the past 8 months that we're actually having them create the strategic plan this year. And it's going to be really exciting. And we're going to talk about change. There's 5 components of change that you have to get right in order for it to be successful. So we're going to make sure that we have those 5 components as we go into the rest of this year.
What are the 5 components?
You have to have vision. If you don't have vision, you're going to have confusion. You have to have the resources that you need. Otherwise, you're going to have frustration. Your team has to have the skill. And if they don't have the skill, they're going to be anxious, concerned. I can't live up to this. You have to have an action plan, because if you've got an action plan, you can avoid, not prevent, but avoid a lot of the false starts that can happen. And you also have to have incentives. And this one gets a little tricky for people. When they hear incentives, they think, oh gosh, I have to give them a bonus. No, there's lots of ways you can incentivize people. If you're leading them towards a vision and a goal that brings more purpose to their work, that's all the incentive they need. Again, it's tying the role to that vision. So those are the pieces that you need in order to have successful change.
Brilliant. Well, I'm glad that you'll be bringing that to businesses in the coming year.
Thank you.
So earlier in the call, in this interview, you mentioned your book. Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
I am so excited. Not going to lie, I'm very excited about it. It's called People First, and it's a proven path to successful business growth. And that's what I want people to see, is that by putting people first, you're actually going to build the practice or the business of your dreams. And so, as you know, my company name is Cairn. And so there's Cairns behind me on both sides. And when I think about this, I look at the way that you create your business strategy and your leadership skills, the way you build a cairn. You have a strong foundational rock. In our business world and in our leadership, it's all about your mindset and your intentions. If I have to go into a conflict situation, what are my intentions? Is my intention to win? Is my intention to cave? Or my intention to engage productively in that conflict? So I teach a lot of productive conflict stuff, because most of it comes down to mindset and intentions. So from a business design side, we look at intentions of the work that you do. And when you're going to do corrective action, what's the intention there? You know, I love people have, what are they called? Performance improvement plans, which is the fancy way of saying I'm writing you up until we can get rid of you. That's not an improvement plan. So let's figure out what our intentions are. Once you have that really solid foundation of both personal intentions and business intentions and mindset, mission, vision, values, then we look at what are your systems and communication and say in terms of the business practice. So how do you have communication? Is it focused on connection? What's your structure? I spend a lot of time with clients talking to them about why meetings can be the best thing ever if they're done right.
Right.
And then we talk about words, phrases, listening, and powerful questions on the leadership side. Once you've got your communication and your say, the next rock is, what do we do? So what are the actions that we take? What is the way that we structure our business so that it supports people first? And as a leader, what do I do to demonstrate my support of my team? And then the final rock is grow, because I think people say, oh, I'm not looking to grow. We're happy with the size we are. I'm not talking about you have to double the size of your business or you have to expand this amount of dollars. But let's face it, if you're not growing, you're dying, because growth can be just a pivot here or there. So whatever your definition of growth is, you need strategies, processes, and systems in place in order to grow successfully.
That's so brilliant. You're right. I love how you tie all of this to growth. It's so strategic. So if somebody wants to purchase your book, when and how can they do that?
So we anticipate the publication date is going to be approximately September 21st. On my website, there's going to be a place for that. And I'd love to link it for your members. They can sign up for the newsletter so that they know when it's coming out. And in the newsletter, I also talk about other key strategies throughout the year that are going to help guide people towards their people first practice. So I can make some things available to your team.
Sounds beautiful. Well, look, Amy, as we come to the end of our time together, we love to end our interviews on a question that has nothing to do with business. When you're not working, what do you like to do for fun?
I love to travel. So this year's been a little bit challenging, a lot of bit challenging.
I hear you. I hear you.
I love it. And to me, travel is wonder. It's that what's going to happen next. It's this curiosity and this openness to just seeing what's around the corner. And I've been incredibly fortunate to travel to many, many countries. And I have so many more that I want to see. And so that's really my passion. I try to get 2 big international trips a year. And I've just been really fortunate to do a lot of travel, and it's my passion.
I love it. As the theme of openness and curiosity and exploration seems to move through your personal and professional life and everything you do.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
look, Amy, thank you so much for taking this time to share your brilliant insights with us today. It was really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity.